You can say all the right things, post all the right things, believe all the right things, but none of it matters if your life doesn't match it. Values in action, that's alignment, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we go into the third step in the Better Way framework, let's recap on the first two steps. The first one was notice. Remember, notice is loud. It's where we finally realize that something needs to change. A light bulb went off in our head. We saw something that we hadn't seen in that way before. We realized that something in our life needs to stop, some pattern that we have been in for many, many years. And one day the light bulb goes off and we realize we need to stop that. A habit that we have had for a very, very long time. And suddenly we realize that we need to change that. That's notice. It's loud. It's not passive awareness. It's not that background noise. It's in your face finally, and you realize something needs to change. Step two is shift. That is part of more of the internal work. Something's going on within you, and we are shifting that mindset. And when we shift that mindset, we kill the I'm not ready yet. Remember, I'm not ready yet is what keeps us from moving on to that next step because we're waiting for this or we're waiting for that or it's not the right time. And that shift, that mindset shift is where we get out of that and we decide the time is now. In addition to the mindset shift, we recall that confidence doesn't come from preparing only. It comes from doing. So it doesn't come from having it all figured out. The more that we do something, the more confident we become at doing it. So you can prepare for years for that first time you walk on stage, but nothing will prepare you for the stage like being on the stage for years. Okay. And now we get to alignment. Alignment is where that internal stuff that we've been working on, the notice and the shift, it moves to an external. It's where people see who we are. So let's talk a little bit about the science behind some of this that I think is very relevant and very important to understand. First off, I want to talk about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is where you have two thoughts that contradict one another. So I'm going to use the example of, say, eating healthy. I believe and I value healthy eating. I also go through a drive-through every morning and usually make prepared foods that I just get out of the freezer. So those are two contradicting things that are happening in my mind. And cognitive dissonance says we have to resolve those. Our defense mechanisms say we need to resolve that because those two things don't go well together. So how we resolve that is we either change our belief and say, I do value healthy eating, but it's fine if I only do it 20% of the time because that's good enough, right? So I've somehow changed that belief to only matter sometimes. Or I might justify that belief and I might say, well, it's really expensive to eat healthy, so I can't do it all the time. And it takes a lot of time out of my day to chop up all the vegetables. And I just don't have that time. So I have no choice but to buy these prepared foods from the frozen section and just, stick them in the microwave. I have a value and a thing that I'm doing that do not go well together. So I have to defend that by coming up with all these things so that the uncomfortability within me, the mental uncomfortability with, I have these conflicting thoughts, I have to resolve that. This is relevant as we look to move into alignment because that's the action part. That's the part that goes with the value that you say that you have. And we don't want to get stuck in that cognitive dissonance. We want to ensure that we are consistent with our values and our beliefs and our alignment. The other piece of science that I want to share with you is the social learning theory. Social learning theory in some says we learn through observation. We learn by watching others. As small children, we learned how to take care of a home. We learned how to regulate our emotions. We learned how to communicate by watching the people in our home. And that environment and those observations when we went to school, right? People say, well, homeschooling is nice, but make sure your kids are getting socialized. When you go to public school or, some sort of organized education system, there's a lot of social learning going on there, right? You're watching everyone else and how they're doing things, how they're socializing, how they're dressing, how they're dealing with their emotions and their relationships. That's social learning. And why is that relevant right now? Well, that kind of leads into my personal story, which I want to share with you. Because as we talk about alignment and we talk about action, it's important to know that your action is being modeled for the people around you. Okay. And I think if you are a parent, this is so motivating as a parent. And let me tell you what, when I was a young mom, I was 29. I was stay at home mom. My husband and I had this little 740 square foot home, and I absolutely loved to watch Oprah. It was the thing I did every morning. It was like, you talk about habits and patterns and routines, like that was mine. Like I was up and watching Oprah, and I didn't record it. I used my commercials to go do what I needed to do, and I never missed an episode. And I'll never forget, I was in my living room and my children, my little babies were playing, and I was watching an episode. And I remember very vividly that on that show, a person said, your children will not do what you tell them to do. They will not become who you tell them to become. They will not grow up to be who you tell them to be. They will grow up to be and become who you were. What you model for them and what you show them will determine where they go in life. And I, for whatever reason, college came into my brain and I instantly panicked. And I thought, all my babies are going to go to college, duh. But no one in my family really went to college. Well, no one had graduated at that point. And, no one in my husband's family had graduated college. So I thought, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Our parents didn't go to college, so we didn't go to college. They're right. You have to do these things if you want your kids to do them. So my husband came home. I was like, oh my gosh, like one of us is going to have to go to college because these kids are not going to do what we say. They are going to do what we do. And neither one of us went. So someone is going to have to go. And he's like, yeah, it's not going to be me. And I said, okay, it's going to be me. Here I sit today with a master's degree. That light bulb, that notice that went off in my brain immediately shifted my mindset. And I immediately decided that I needed to go to college. I did the work. I looked into it. I registered for classes. I did all the things. I aligned my behavior with my values because my value was my children and modeling for them what they needed to become in life. They did all three of our children have graduated from college. And I am not saying that that is the only reason why. But what I am saying is that I do believe that your actions model for the people around you, the people who love you and the people that you love. And it is so important that your actions are something that are in alignment with your values, because those values are what you show to the people that you love. So what do we do now? We know that there's science behind this, behind why we aren't doing the thing that we value. We know the importance of doing the thing that we value because other people are watching. And so how do we get there? What do we do? Well, I've got some steps for you. Willpower matters, but remember, there's more to it. You've noticed whatever it is in your life, you've noticed that there is a need for a change. You've done the mind work. You've sat with yourself and you've done the internal work. You've said, I'm not ready yet, doesn't win today. Fear isn't in charge. I am in charge. It's time. And so when we get to that time, which is now, which is that alignment, what do? Well, number one, we're going to look at our environment. We are going to decide, is this environment that I am in conducive to what I'm trying to do? And if it is not, how can I change this environment? So by that, I mean, if we are talking about, I'm trying to shift my eating habits. Well, what's in my pantry? What kind of recipes am I usually making? What kind of time do I have to prepare these meals? And where can I find that time? Those are those are things that you need to do to change your environment. If the issue is a relationship, what in this environment is going to help me be more disciplined in that relationship that I'm working on? Do I need to create some visual reminders, post it on the refrigerator, post it on my laptop, post it on my mirror? Do I need to create an environment that's going to help me do those things? If it's pause before I get upset, if it's say something kind to someone I love, if it is to create more dialogue about difficult topics in my household, what kind of environment can I create to make that more likely to happen? Am I going to schedule a dinner so that we can do that? Am I going to, say, hey, let's go on a walk? So a walk and talk, whatever. Number one, you are going to look at your environment and see how you can adjust that to support that action step that you are taking. Number two, you're going to close the loop. You're not going to rationalize why, that cognitive dissonance. We're not going to rationalize and say, well, it's just not the time, or, maybe I thought I cared about, eating a certain way, but it's actually really not that important after all. That's rationalizing. That's trying to change your value and your belief to suit the action that you're not ready to take. We're not going to do that. Okay. We are going to change our behavior. We are not going to lower the bar for ourselves. What we value doesn't change. We don't lower the bar on that because we're not ready. We are going to do the things. So we're not going to rationalize. If we find ourselves rationalizing and saying, well, I wanted to start this week, but all these other things happened and blah, blah, blah. And we are going to make a list of what's going to get in the way and what we're going to do when it gets in the way. Okay. Number three, you're going to audit your calendar. Because your calendar is where you do what you do. I have a calendar and I have somewhere to be in an hour, and that's where I'm going to be, right? It's going to happen. It's not well, maybe I'll show up, maybe I won't. No, I've already said I'm coming, I'm doing it. That's what you need to do with this new action that you're putting into place. What's on your calendar? What's getting in the way of you doing this? Or what isn't on your calendar that needs to be to support you doing what you said you were going to do? And that's it. Those are the things. Your environment, you're not rationalizing, and you're looking at your calendar. You set that up for your alignment, for your behavior. When I talked about going to school, what I did was I said, when my youngest goes to preschool, that's when I will go to classes. I will schedule my classes only while she is at preschool. If I can only take two, I'll only take two. But that's how I aligned my calendar to ensure that going to school was more likely going to happen. Was I scared? Yes. Was I afraid I was going to fail? Yes. Was it worth trying for something that meant so much to me and the people that I love? Absolutely. Absolutely. And my environment, I had a supportive husband. I had family who was willing to help out when needed, if needed. And that's how it worked. And that's how you make the things in your life work, by looking at those three things to ensure that you are going to be successful. Somebody is watching you. And maybe it's not little kids. Maybe it's your coworker. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your adult children. They're watching how you handle things. And they're still learning from you. And sometimes you are an inspiration to people because of the way that you handle things, because of your discipline, because of the changes that you make, because of the fearlessness that you show by doing something that to others seems almost impossible. But when they see you doing it, then they say, I think I can do that too. So that is alignment. Alignment is your values in action. It's not what you say you are. It's not what you say you believe. It's what you do. Remember, children will do what you do, not what you say. So I am super excited for all of you to keep moving through this Better Way framework as you move to make changes in your life, to do the things that you've always dreamt of doing, the things that, even if they aren't that big of a deal thing, but to do them, to finally make those steps to actually do them. And again, it all goes back to notice and awareness. And if there's something in you, if you're like, well, I don't notice anything in my life, like, I don't think anything needs to change. Like, I think I haven't noticed not one thing. I would challenge you to spend some time in reflection, looking in a mirror, right? If you're a female, you probably look in the mirror quite a bit when you're doing your makeup and doing your hair. It's the same thing. It's the idea of looking at yourself and saying, where can I improve myself to make myself prouder? Where is an area in my life that I know I've struggled with and I've justified it and said, well, that's just who I am. That's just how I am. We all have things that we can do to evolve, right? Life is a journey, not a destination. Does anybody know anybody who's fully arrived at their best version? I mean, I don't know anybody. So I think we're all still working on that. Anyway, my friends, this is my way of giving you a better way. And I am so, so grateful that you joined me today. And I look forward to being here again next Tuesday.